I'm feeling the need for a little bit more humor this week.
Yeah, good. Last week's show was great, but I think for people who watch this show, they do it just to see you mock the political circus that is Tallahassee. So it was somewhat disappointing in that way.
And you think I let them down with all the Latvala stuff?
Well, yes, more so than usual.
Well, get ready then, because we've got a lot of ground to cover. I'm Brian Burgess, and you're watching The Capitolist. Wait a minute. What did you mean by...
Just stop ad-libbing. Read the prompter.
Usual?
Read the prompter.
I feel like you're mocking me.
Prompter.
What prompter? There's no prompter. I'm just... This monologue is off the cuff, always.
Right. Let me get out my nifty polygraph test. We'll do it on camera.
Speaking of polygraph tests, State Senator Jack Latvala has mounted a counteroffensive against his anonymous accusers. He hired a local lawyer, Steve Andrews, who has the reputation of a legal pit bull. And to prove my point, Latvala released the results of a polygraph test that he claims is proof that he didn't sexually harass anyone. But I'm not buying it.
Because you don't believe in polygraphs and their effectiveness?
I just think it's possible to beat them. I think polygraph tests can be beaten. I'm not saying Jack Latvala is a pathological liar. I'm just saying that they can be beaten.
That's a fair point.
Okay.
Can happen.
In a few minutes, we're going to talk to Katie Webb and Chris Dudley and get their opinion on the Latvala situation. But here's the bottom line. Most Tallahassee insiders, people who know the political process inside and out, all think that Jack Latvala is basically finished politically.
You mean gone, done, bye-bye, forever, no more Jack?
Finished at least in the sense that he probably won't ever regain control over the Senate Appropriations Committee. And without the chairmanship, the fundraising for his gubernatorial race is going to dry up if it hasn't already.
But finished. There's a difference. Finished? Finito.
Here's the thing. Jack Latvala is still a wily politician who controls a political committee that still has millions of dollars tucked away. So, maybe finished is a strong word, but let's put it this way. Jack Latvala is like a cornered raccoon, and you don't mess with a cornered raccoon.
Hey!
You know there's an old saying in Florida, Ann. The old he-coon walks just before the light of day.
The what?
Google it. It just means Jack Latvala is a wily old politician who is very smart and still has enough money to be very dangerous.
So, the name of the animal you just named, he-coon, it just sounds politically incorrect in a very politically correct, sensitive time, especially in this Capitol right now. It sounds like
I knew you'd be worried. It's a very dangerous thing to say, but there is context.
Okay.
There's context. It's a famous Lawton Childs debate line from 1994 for historical context.
Okay.
But you're right. Let's move on.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Politico Florida has added another seasoned reporter to their staff. You know, Ann, last week we just had Matt Dixon and Alexandra Glorioso in here to talk about the Jack Latvala story. That's the two of the three that broke the story. Mark Caputo was the third.
Right.
They've just added Eric Sarkisian to the team. He's a very accomplished investigative reporter.
Nice.
There's only one problem. Eric Sarkisian has only one source, the guy who sits behind Fred Piccolo's desk.
And so we're talking the same, it's an unusual name, Fred Piccolo, Richard Corcoran's communications director. Is that who we're talking about?
I think that's who sits behind Fred Piccolo's desk, Fred Piccolo.
Fred Piccolo, yeah.
It is less of a fact than it is a way for me to mock Eric Sarkisian, though, because all of his big blockbuster stories about scandals in the Florida Senate seem to be leaks coming from the Florida House. But never mind all that. It's only inside information, and only insiders will understand it.
Sure, I get it. I'm an insider.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I get it.
But here's something Palm Beach County voters will be able to grasp. Miami Beach Mayor Phil Levine has officially entered the governor's race. He's now challenging Bob Graham's daughter.
Gwen Graham.
Yes. He's now challenging Gwen Graham, Chris King, and the as-yet unindicted Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum for the Democratic nomination in 2018. Are you okay with the as-yet unindicted?
That
passed our legal smell test?
The FBI is investigating, but he has not. They've not come out and said that they're investigating Andrew Gillum.
He's as yet unindicted then.
But I mean, then at that rate, you're unindicted. So am I. So Sam.
Thank you for clarifying for the
Just
lawyers.
want to clarify. I do take a little bit of issue with it because there's nothing to say that he will be. But continue.
Fair point.
Her name is Gwen Graham, by the way.
I like to tweak you a little bit.
Yeah.
Phil Levine is Gwen Graham's worst nightmare for 3 reasons. 1, he already has millions of dollars banked for a race, and he has the ability to raise millions more, which instantly puts him on par with Bob Graham's daughter.
Gwen Graham.
2, he's a certified liberal wacko.
How liberal is he?
He's so liberal that for a solid week last month, his proudest accomplishment was being awarded the French Legion of Honor.
For military heroism?
Not the French Foreign Legion or anything like that. It's for his work on climate change. That's like the Republican equivalent of being knighted by the Queen of England for championing high-capacity magazines for assault rifles. For Democrats, you just can't get more liberal than the French Legion of Honor for climate change.
But, I mean, there's more bad news for Gwen Graham. Let's get to number 3.
Number 3, Phil Levine possesses a far more dynamic personality than Gwen Graham.
Is that your way of saying he's a lot more likable than Gwen Graham?
You get me.
I get you.
You really do. You really get me. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Gwen Graham is a terrible candidate for Democrats. And she proved it last week by bombing a media appearance where she tried and failed to tell a few jokes that never got off the ground. But she does have at least one fan. Joining us here on the set is one of Gwen Graham's biggest defenders. None other than the Capitalist's own education correspondent, Lane Wright. Lane?
Thank you, Brian. An open letter to Gwen Graham. Dear Gwen, some people may think you're out of touch, or that you fake outrage and orchestrate cheap political stunts to score points. Like that time you called Senator Rubio and left a voicemail message and videotaped it.
Hi, Senator Rubio. This is Gwen Graham.
But I don't think you're guilty of any of those things. Nope, not me. I think you're a bold leader who dares to say the things that, for most people, make little to no sense. I mean, just last week, your execution of jokes at the annual Associated Press shindig became the laughingstock, but those mean reporters obviously just don't have the intellect to get your humor. I mean, when you landed that knee slapper right out of the gate, let me see if I can reenact it. The burning question of the day. I know, right? I'm wearing black heels, high heels, and I can go backwards in high heels. For those of you who have the shoe question, that's the answer to my shoes. I was dying. And when I saw that video of you going elbow deep into that cow's rear end just to prove how relatable your life is to the rest of us,
trying to learn and experience new things, and it was amazing.
But more important than your wit and your folksy charm is your sound and studied rhetoric on school policy. I was awestruck when I saw the video of you telling an audience in Palm Beach that you were going to end labeling of schools.
I'm going to end labeling of schools.
But you didn't stop there. Labeling? You said incredulously.
Labeling? How dare the state of Florida degrade our students by saying to them, you are less than, you are a D, you are an F. That's going to end.
And I'm thinking, I know, right? Who cares that 70% of our kids in those D and F schools, on average, can't read or do math at their grade level? I mean, of course we all care, but we shouldn't actually tell people this stuff. How dare the state of Florida make anyone feel bad about stuff that really sucks? At first I thought, picking up on your suggestion here, that we should just give all D and F schools a rating of sunshine or rainbow, respectively. Those labels feel really good to me. But then I realized that eventually people would pick up on the fact that these schools are still grossly underserving our kids. So really, the best thing to do is to stop looking at performance altogether. Critics might argue that it'll risk rejecting or neglecting poor and minority students and students with disabilities even more than we already do. But if you just help them understand the reward of nobody ever feeling bad, I think we can win that fight. Nobody wants to feel bad. And it's your job, or it will be as our next governor, to protect them from that. While you're at it, we should get rid of labels in other areas of our lives. Can you also ban reviews of restaurants, businesses, hotels, colleges, hospitals, and products? People spend a lot of time and money in building and running those things, so nobody should be allowed to tell them that they're not doing well. I think we can all agree scorecards that rate politicians can go too. Of course, we would have to get rid of the grades that a committee of engineers gave Florida's coastal and stormwater infrastructure. Remember those? You quoted those grades fervently in your criticism of Governor Scott after Hurricane Irma came through, but I'm sure you didn't mean to. After all, how dare a group of civil engineers criticize the hardworking state employees who handle infrastructure and label them as less than? Not cool. Anyway, I think you see where I'm going with this. Nobody likes labels or ratings or accountability in general for that matter. So as governor, crossing my fingers here, I hope your first official act will be to ban all labels of every kind. Just think of what that will do for your approval ratings. Sincerely, Lane. your education ally.
Thank you, Lane. I couldn't have said it any better myself. A nice pocket square, by the way.
Thank you.
That is a nice pocket square.
I was going to tell you how nice your pocket square is, but you're not playing for the same team today. I have a pocket square. Lane has a pocket square. No pocket square for you this week.
I have to stand out.
Very disappointed.
I have to be me.
Very disappointed. In a moment, we'll talk with our panel of experts to find out what rumors they've heard that they'll share as their own unique opinions. But first, a quick commercial break. And we're back on the Capitolist. It's week 2 of the Jack Latvala saga, and I have 2 experts here to talk with me about the impact on the 2018 legislative session and how that investigation is going to play out. Chris Dudley and Katie Webb, thanks for joining me once again on the show. I want to throw the question out to you guys. Jack Latvala, he's been battling this. He's been fighting the allegations. 6 women anonymously come forward in Politico. I don't need to rehash the whole story because I've already done that on this show and on the previous show. But it's a well-known story, and now the investigation has moved to a firm that's been hired by the Senate. There's a hotline phone number, and people can call it. The question really for you guys is, assuming that this investigation moves forward, a hypothetical, let's say that no one comes forward. Jack Latvala is cleared, which I think, in my own personal opinion, is a high bar, given what we already know about the case and how it's proceeding. But let's say he's hypothetically cleared of any of these allegations. Does he get his seat back? Katie, I'll throw it to you first.
Sure. So you mean the appropriations chairmanship?
Correct.
Is that right? Yes. Well, I think that what we're probably going to see is as this investigation plays out, I don't think it will be a short-term investigation. I think it'll be pretty lengthy. And
so you're already ducking my hypothetical then.
Yes, I am.
Because well, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Well, in your hypothetical, if this is resolved within the next couple of weeks, I think what we're going to see is Chairman Bradley now really developing his expertise around the appropriations process and issues. I think you'll see him fall into a rhythm of negotiating with his House counterparts on different areas of the budget. And I think it would be very, very difficult to interrupt that and change basically the rhythm of what we would ordinarily see during the session.
Yeah. I mean, I would just add on your hypothetical specifically. I mean, I don't think he gets his chairmanship back either way.
Either way,
regardless of how this plays out.
even if he's cleared, I'm going to redirect. I'm going to just try to put you in this very tight lane. He's cleared. Let's say it's within a month, and we've got mid-December. He has it back. He's going to ask for that chairmanship back. He's going to ask President Negron for it back. What happens? How does that play out?
Well, I mean, to Katie's point, there's no way this gets done in a month. But if it gets done, he clearly goes to Negron and says, hey, I've been cleared of all charges. I'd really like my chairmanship back. I still think that's unlikely for Negron to agree to do. I think he's put a team in place with Rob Bradley as the chairman, moving Senator Simpson into the TED budget chair. Negron and Bradley are allies. They get along well. I think Negron's going to take this as an opportunity to mentor Rob Bradley, and I think you'll see Rob Bradley be the appropriations chair for the next 3 years, including the 2 years under Galvano.
Katie, do you agree with that?
Well, I think that your point is a good point, that certainly Latvala will ask for his chairmanship back. And if he is cleared of all wrongdoing, it does seem unfair that he doesn't get that chairmanship back. But I'd stick to what I said earlier. I think you're going to see things just develop a certain rhythm. And Chairman Bradley, wanting to cooperate in whatever way, the president wants him to cooperate with, but the reorganization has already taken place, and I think to undo that would probably cause some unnecessary delays in what's already a sort of an abbreviated time frame for this year.
So you're basically saying it's like trying to change pilots in the middle of the landing procedure. You can,
Right.
Sometimes maybe if you're at high altitude and you're on autopilot, you could do it. But these guys are already coming in for a landing for the 2018 session. Right. The seats are set. It's happening. And even if in a best case scenario for Latvala, he's going to have to find another way to be effective. And I think, right. Is it fair to say he's probably one of the few people who can find a way to do that?
Absolutely. I don't think we see him absent from the appropriations process, assuming that the investigation, shakes out the way I think he's hoping it shakes out. So I don't think we see him take a step out of it. I think he very much would be involved. Mm-hmm. I think it's just, will he actually officially be the chairman? I think that'd be really difficult to do at this point.
How does he make his presence felt, Chris?
He has always made his presence felt. I mean, he is he's a powerful senator. He knows the issues better than anybody. He knows the process better than anybody. He is engaged in every single issue. He likes the debate on the floor. He likes to be engaged in this stuff. I mean, he's a force to be reckoned with, whether he has a chairmanship or not. So,
how do they have two different styles, Bradley and Latvala. Can you walk me through what the difference is? If somebody coming in here and they want to get some legislation through, they want to get something appropriated in the budget. What might the difference be for those two, or for someone facing Latvala versus facing Bradley as the chairman?
Well, they're both very, very smart, and but I think they analyze issues in a different way. Rob Bradley is a lawyer, mm-hmm. and I think the way, at least in my experience with him, the way that he will analyze his position on issues, it's very methodical and calculated. And very, very much what you would expect from an attorney. Latvala is not an attorney. Now, that's not to say he's not equally as thoughtful, but I think he is tends to analyze an issue and then he goes with his gut, and that's, I think, the difference between that I see.
And Bradley, he has been a budget chair before the last 2 years, but today he finds himself controlling an $85 billion budget. A lot of big areas, education, healthcare, things that he hasn't chaired in the past. I think that's a lot to learn. So I think to Katie's point, I think he's going to take a very thoughtful and educational approach to, learning issues. I don't think you get an immediate yes or no. I think he's really going to rely on staff, rely on his friend Joe Negron to kind of walk him through the landmines of what is a process that's almost entirely the opposite of the way it is working on substantive policy bills during session.
So it sounds like the seats are set. It's this train has left the station. It is going to be Bradley, no matter what, from what you guys are telling me, and I'll take your word for it. When we come back, I want to ask our experts about the 2018 governor's race and how Phil Levine's entry into it affects especially the Democrat side. We'll be right back to talk about that. Hey, it's Brian Burgess here with the Capitolist. Just wanted to take a moment with session gearing up again, coming into 2018. Wanted to remind everybody about the free Capitolist app that you can download at either the App Store or the Google Play Store. You can get it directly at thecapitalist.com/app. It's more than just a news app. It's more than just my content from the site. It's also got content from all around the state. You can touch the little menu screen, the little red button over there, and it'll give you a bunch of menu options, or you can just slide the screen over. We've got all your morning news briefings. Sunburn, Politico Playbook. We've even got takeaways from Tally and links to Safety News. We've got Above the Fold from Kevin Kate. Great little addition. So a quick run down the list. You can look up your favorite lobbyist and see who he or she is registered to lobby for. We've also got lobbyist appearances that you can look up. We've got top Twitter streams. We've got a campaign database. You can look up campaign documents, see who's donating to who's spending money on what. One of my favorite things is the Capitol Press Guide, which if I wanted to email someone from the Associated Press or the Tampa Bay Times or text them, you can do it all directly within the app. This page is sponsored by Saks Media, but you can go into the Capitol News Service, for example. Click on that. You've got text numbers and emails to all these guys. And then if you want to close that out, you just go to the next news source. So we've got a lot of different things, a lot of different ways to reach people. It's just a very handy app, one-stop shopping. It's been called the Swiss Army knife of Florida politics. Wanted to make you all aware of it. And of course, my favorite feature is the one where you can send news tips directly to the Capitolist. You can even attach photos and everything else and send it right to us. Protect your identity, be an anonymous source, contribute to society. That's all for now. More later. Download it for free once again at thecapitalist.com/app. And we are back, here to talk now about the 2018 governor's race. Phil Levine, Miami Beach mayor, has entered the race. He's got a lot of money. He's got the ability to raise a lot of money. How does his entry into this race affect someone like Gwen Graham? Katie, I'm going to put you, you're closest to me, so you're just automatically going to be in the hot seat. And that gives Chris a lot more time to think about his answer and then think about how you might be wrong or brilliantly right.
Sure. Well, so, now you've got Chris King in the race, Gwen Graham, Phil Levine, and then the wild card, Mayor Gillum, and then the big wild card that we talked about before, which is John Morgan, who's not really in at this point, but everybody's...
But looming, ever-present looming in the race.
Sure. So I think that, anytime you have a primary on either side that starts to get really crowded like this, it makes all of the different components of fundraising a lot more difficult because everybody's drawing from arguably similar people. I think that one of the strengths that we're going to see that Levine brings is geographically where he is, where he's located. That can, he's got the ability to raise a lot of money, and he's popular at home. So that's going to be something that the other folks in the primary are going to have to contend with.
And he's raised money, or already has demonstrated an ability to raise money outside of Florida. He's got some tech money coming in, and I know he's got the ability to tap other places that maybe Gwen Graham can't quite reach. So I think he does bring an interesting dynamic financially to the race. Chris, ideologically, what does he do to the Democratic ticket?
Well, if John Morgan is the 800-pound gorilla, then Mayor Levine is the 750-pound gorilla. I think it's a huge change in dynamics for this race. He is a liberal progressive Democrat. He is somebody that the base is going to rally around. He's got a proven track record of being a good mayor for 2 terms down there, tackling progressive Democratic issues like climate change and increasing minimum wage. He's able to raise a lot of money. He, as you said, from around the country. Recently, he hosted the U.S. Mayors Association down there, so he's developing those contacts outside of Florida. I think you'll see him gain a lot of momentum and surpass the current.
You say he's a 750-pound gorilla, but he's not the personality that John Morgan is. You're just saying he can bring policy issues. He can bring a lot to that race, and he can certainly bring the fundraising to it.
Right.
But he's not the dynamic personality that Morgan is, or am I mistaken? I don't know that much about him, honestly.
Well, I think what you see with John Morgan is just, notwithstanding the personality, just a name ID that is off the chart in Florida. I mean,
he doesn't even have to bring the money, right?
Right.
He could probably just walk in, and most people already know who he is. I'd like to see some polling on it, but I think that he does have a huge advantage. You're right.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, Morgan's personality is someone you want to go have a beer with after work and talk to, because it would be fun and entertaining. I think Mayor Levine's personality is progressive Democratic policy. I mean, I think the guy has really staked out those issues on the Democratic side, and I think for the base, they're going to be attracted to someone that has that substantive policy.
Does he fulfill the role that Morgan would want to if he were to get in the race? Does Levine represent sort of the policies, especially on marijuana and other things where Morgan's passionate? Does he fulfill that for John Morgan and perhaps act as a deterrent for Morgan getting in the race?
One of Morgan's, biggest issues is marijuana. I mean, I think, Levine has a track record of wanting to decriminalize marijuana. So I would say if that's a motivating factor for Morgan, then...
Oh, it is. I mean, it's got to be.
You've got it. You've got it with Mayor Levine.
Yeah.
Well, I think, Chris made a point a little while ago that I just wanted to follow up on, and that is, remember, we're talking about a primary. And so with Levine having the sort of the very left of the left cornered on this, that's probably going to bode pretty well for him in a primary where those types of supporters are more likely to vote.
Right, they're going to come out.
They're going to come out. So I think that Chris's point is a good one, where when you think about how this might play out among all of the different candidates, he's sitting pretty. And
he's going to force Gwen Graham to tack leftward. Even if she were to prevail, she's going to have a harder time in a general election just because he was in there, even if she's successful beating him in the primary. Right. Appreciate both of you being on the show today. We're out of time for the panel. We'll be right back after this. And that's the end of our show. But before we go to Thanksgiving break, I won't be here next week. Neither will you.
We are preempted by Thanksgiving-related programming next week.
Football, parades, all that fun stuff. Yep. Final thoughts on the Latvala saga. What's going on? What's happening?
I don't think Jack is out by any means. I think this is a very powerful, proud individual, and I think it's going to be, again, these are allegations. It's going to be a lot worse if it comes out he did not do this. And so I think there's going to be a lot of fury raining down in Tallahassee.
Scary raccoon?
Scary raccoon.
Don't hit the raccoon with a broom right now. Just
correct.
wait.
Don't do it.
Wait to hit him.
Well, I'm just saying, we'll see what happens, but Jack is not going to go quietly. That's my opinion.
Fair point.
And in terms of Phil Levine, I think you're right. Dead on. He is going to be a viable candidate, and everybody
he's going to push Gwen to the left.
Everybody in this race needs to be worried in terms of the Democrats because he's probably, in my opinion, very, very viable, and I think the Republicans need to worry about him too.
Good stuff. Thank you, Ann. We'll be back a week after Thanksgiving. Thanks for watching.